All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 10. Okay. Uh, so we're gonna have some interesting times here today because what we're talking about this week is evaluating sources. This is going to be evaluating them for credibility, evaluating them for trustworthiness, also evaluating them for the purposes of your own research. Okay. The other half of this is going to be looking at the final exam materials. Now, you probably haven't looked yet, but I can tell you that under the major exams or major essays slash exams link, or under the final exam, I think it is. Uh, yeah, final exam has its own link. Anyway, under that final exams tab, uh, there is now available a study packet for the final exam. We're going to talk about this when we get to the final exam materials, but you basically need to download that packet and print it out. All right. We're going to talk about what we're going to be doing with that packet later in the video today. Now, notoriously, this one is actually going to be the longest video of the semester. Typically, it runs over 2 hours. So if you do not have that kind of time, I'm helpfully trying to split it up into 2 parts here. So at the beginning here, we're going to talk about the evaluating sources material. Okay, this will also include the lecture exercises for this week. If you want to skip ahead to the final exam review, there's 3 ways you can do it. One, I'm going to place a link in the description to allow you to jump to that time code. Second, I'm going to have a link on eCampus that will take you directly to the final exam overview. The third possibility is I'm going to try to use one of the YouTube cards. I have not had any luck using those before. If it doesn't show up, that means I haven't been able to do it. But if it does show up, that's going to be a third option because that'll be a link to go, again, directly to the right time code for the final exam review. Okay? So let's go ahead and start talking about evaluating sources. All right, so once you've performed research on your topic, the first thing you need to do is go through your resources, evaluate them for use in your essay. Okay, this is going to be especially important for the anti-bibliography because everyone is using a different research question based on the general topic that your team has chosen. So you're going to have to make sure that while all those sources are going to apply to that topic, you need to make sure that you're going to be picking the sources. You're going to be looking at the sources as they relate to your research question and whether you can use them or not. Okay? So, while you're doing this evaluation, sources have to be evaluated in a critical manner. Okay? Not only for their usefulness, but also you need to look for anything that might disqualify them or call their reliability into question. Okay? So, if you have any elements to these sources that may seem suspect, like say they don't match up with other sources on the same topic, or they may have a completely out there point of view, that's going to be something that's going to be questionable. So many times evaluating a resource is more than just confirming the facts presented are correct. This process also involves evaluating how the facts are presented, the context of that presentation, and the tone the original author gives to their presentation of the facts. Okay? So, what this basically means is you need to look at all these elements. You look at what kind of stuff you're talking about in terms of the tone used, okay? What kind of facts that are presented, okay? Are they looking at the full picture, or are they trying to give a limited viewpoint of things that matches up with their viewpoint, okay? Are they working within the correct context, or are they trying to apply something to a context that it doesn't apply to? Okay? All things you have to consider as you're evaluating the source's reliability. Another way to do this is to read sources rhetorically. So, the question does come up, how do you evaluate a mountain of research and narrow it down to something more reasonable? Okay? The main thing you gotta do is read the sources with your own goals in mind. Okay? That is, focus on the information that will directly help or hurt your own essay's argument. Now, in the case of annotated bibs, where we're talking about these research questions, when we're talking about how to read the source with your own goals in mind, it means how will that source help to answer your research question in a way that's satisfying to you. Okay? In a way that satisfies you and your viewpoint. Okay? So think about it in those terms. Also think of the focus of your questions. Okay? In the early part of research, overviews are going to be more useful to give you a handle on the subject. So if you have a summary or abstract or executive summary or something like that of your articles, that's going to be for the best, because then you can quickly look through those summaries and determine, okay, this one might be useful, this one might be useful, this one might be useful, and pick it out from there. As you go further into the research, then you need to actually read the articles, make sure that your assessment is going to be right, and then you also have to analyze how others are utilizing that information, practical uses, and keep your mind open to ideas. There may be some stuff that comes up in the research that maybe you didn't think of before. Okay, maybe it's something that gives you a differing viewpoint, or something that alters your view, alters your opinion. Okay, all things to keep in mind. All right. So as you go along further, as you're reading it, as you're comparing it to your research question, also look at how other people are using those same sources. This is especially helpful if your sources are cross-referencing each other. Okay, then you can see how they're being used by each other. And then also read the sources in a rhetorical manner. Evaluate the sources based on questioning their source. You always have to approach research reading in the sense that you have to be a skeptic. You have to be saying, okay, prove it to me. Show me you're right. How are you going to prove to me that what you're saying is correct? As you're doing a critical rhetorical reading, here's some things to look at. First off, who is the author? Look at their credentials, their affiliations, and their educational background. Okay? So what kind of authority does that writer have for writing this particular source? Look for credentials at the end of an article, particularly in trade published articles. You'll typically see a writer's credentials at the very end. Okay, they'll tell you where they work for, who they study with, what kind of think tank they're affiliated with, that sort of thing. Okay, that will give you some of their credentials. Another thing to look at is Google searching the author. See what else they've written. Try to see if there's a pattern to it. Try to see if there's other stuff that they've written in the same field that may confirm or contradict the viewpoint they're giving you now. Also, look for other works by the same author. Okay, that also goes along with Google searching. All right, we just talked about that. In the older days, though, this basically came down to doing legwork at the library, try to look through the library's collection and see what else that person had written. Critical rhetorical reading comes into play here because maybe that author is basically just writing for a paycheck. Okay, to give you a good example of this, in 6th grade, my class was shown a video. It was a cartoon, basically about some kids who were trying to investigate a theft at their school. Okay, so the kids decided that they were going to bone up on how to act like detectives, and they found a book called How to Be a Detective. Okay, the problem being was that the book was filled with immensely wrong advice. A lot of it was cliche from detective movies. Okay, at least one of them was culprit always returns to the scene of the crime. Not true. Okay, so the kids decided to do some critical thinking and do a little bit of research on this particular author. Turned out this author had written about 20-something books, all of them how to be a particular career, none of which are related to each other. Some of the books that they found, he'd also written how to be a nurse, how to be a mechanic, how to be a pilot. Okay? So he was not an authority. In fact, he was the worst kind of how-to author. He was the type who does it for the paycheck and doesn't care whether he's giving you the right information or not. Okay? So, look at who the author is, look at what their other works are, look for their credentials. Second, look at the source's genre. So this basically means you need to look at the intended audience. Okay. Also, what kind of writing is it? Is it a straight up journalistic news story? Is it a column? Is it an opinion piece? Is it something that's going to be colored by bias? Okay. One thing to take a look at is the original publication information. Where was it published? Okay. Who originally ran it? Is it somebody that's going to be credible in the field? Or is it a publication that's known to have a certain bias? Okay. Also look at other articles for works from periodicals. What other stuff was published alongside that particular work? Okay. Most times this is reliable. Sometimes, though, it's a little bit rough. Okay. Sometimes it can be unreliable. Okay. A good example of this actually comes from my high school English class. In my senior year in high school, I took a college composition course. And there was very little reading in it. In fact, they only assigned us 2 novels, one of which we picked. But the first novel that we always read in that class was 1984 by George Orwell. Now, as part of the materials for that particular novel, the teacher, after we'd finished it, would give out this handout of an article that was written in 1984 that was titled 1994. And it's written by a futurist who was basically going over what Orwell got right and what Orwell got wrong, and how much of his stuff was just was predicted 10 years earlier than it's actually going to be. Okay? Very well written article, very academic in nature. Here's the problem. He had gotten this from a student in about the early 80s, or in the mid 80s, okay? Obviously 1984, 1985, that sort of thing. That was when it was published. He got the photocopy of it, and he just kept copying it over and over and over and over again. Problem was, he didn't have the original article. If he'd had the original article, he would have discovered that this particular article was published by Playboy. Okay? Probably one of the best known men's soft porn magazines. However, weirdly enough, they have a reputation as a literary magazine. That might surprise some people, but there are a lot of literary, pretty big literary authors who got their start writing short works for Playboy. Okay, to give you a couple examples, one of them is Shel Silverstein. Got his start writing rebel poetry for Playboy. Another one is J.D. Salinger. Okay, you might have experienced Salinger in later years of high school. One of his novels, the main novel he's known for, is The Catcher in the Rye. Centers on a teenage character named Holden Caulfield. Caulfield's character was actually developed over a series of short stories that Salinger published in Playboy. Okay, so you have certain exceptions to the rule like that, but for the most part, in modern era, when you're looking at when you're looking at stuff for research, when you're looking at more recent stuff, the publications are going to make a difference because there is going to be a lot of bias out there. Okay, just keep that in mind. Next thing to look at, what is the author's purpose? Okay, how is the author attempting to shape the audience's views? What kind of tactics are they using? And what kind of writing do they have? Is the piece expressive, informational, analytical, or persuasive? Okay, so let's talk about the differences between these forms of writing. Expressive. This is going to be something that is written like poetry or fiction. Okay, something that involves imagination, something that may have a basis in a major topic that the author wants to explore, but it's written in an artistic fashion. Okay, informational. This is going to be something that's going to give you just the facts. It's going to be like journalistic writing. Okay, analytical is going to be something that's fact-based, but it's going to give you more interpretation. Okay. Something like investigative reporting would be analytical writing. Okay, you're trying to draw conclusions. Persuasive is going to be more in terms of opinionated writing, columnists, more biased stuff. Okay. Look at who sponsored the site it came from. Is there anybody that's going to be benefiting from the result of the argument going their way? Okay. For instance, is there some kind of corporate backer who is making sure that they come across a positive light, whatever is being written? Okay. What is a publication's reputation? Okay. What kind of stuff have they written before? I know we talked earlier about the Playboy articles, and for some weird reason, why Playboy is considered a serious literary magazine. Okay. But what kind of other reputation do other publications have that you might be using? Okay, do they have a positive one? Are they well known in the industry, or do they have a well known journalistic reputation? To give you an example of this, there's actually two newspapers that you can find, actually three newspapers that you can find based out of Washington D.C. Okay. You have the Washington Post, the Washington Times, and the Washington Examiner. Okay? Of those three, only one of them has a sterling reputation and is really useful in terms of research that's going to be unbiased. That would be the Washington Post. If you look at the other two, Washington Times has a decidedly conservative bent. Washington Examiner has a decidedly liberal bent. Okay? So, keep that in mind. All right? What kind of reputation does your publication have? How are they known to lean or not lean? Also, going forward, look at the author's angle or bias. Okay? So look at the data and information that the author cites. Are they giving you a full picture, or are they trying to show you data that's going to be influencing you by making them seem more right? Make their side look better. Okay. Do they have any particular facts that they cite, absent of anything else, outside of context, that are basically intended to make them look like angels? Okay. What are the author's underlying values, assumptions, and beliefs? Okay. If your author is a public figure, look at what other statements they've made. Look at their Twitter account if they have one. Look at their social media to try to get a sense as to what kind of viewpoint that author has, where they're coming from. Okay. Also, what is not included? This goes back to that first element about data and information. What are they not telling you that might make them look bad? Okay, what are they not telling you that is going to hurt their argument? And why are they not telling you this? All right, let's talk about taking purposeful notes. Okay, there's a pretty good strategy that you can employ for taking notes when doing research, but let me open this up initially. Think about how you typically take notes. Okay, what kind of habits do you typically have? I can tell you, personally speaking, most times when you think about note taking, you're talking about taking notes from a lecture. And if I'm taking notes from a lecture, what I'm basically doing is trying to get down these most pertinent points in a way that I can understand. Now, I have notoriously terrible handwriting, so at least for one high school class, I did that in the form of pictograms, okay? Because it helped me to remember what was being talked about. I had the outline that the teacher had given me written down in regular writing, but then next to each segment, when he talked about each segment of the outline, I'd draw down little pictures to show to illustrate what was being talked about. Okay. That really helped me because that was an American history class that I wound up acing, okay, because my form of note-taking worked for me. When you're doing research for essays and taking notes on your research, it goes a little differently. And some people have good and some people have bad techniques, okay? Many students doing initial research are simply going to photocopy their sources. Let me tell you, this is a bad idea. Okay, we do not want to just photocopy sources because this leads to regurgitation rather than original ideas. You need to be able to pull facts from your sources, but at the same time, you also have to be able to give your own analysis and your own spin on them. Okay, so that you have an argument that's still based on fact. So, one suggestion on how notes should be taken is to separate your paper into 3 columns. Okay. So when you're taking notes, split up your paper into 3 columns. Okay. The first column is going to have the bibliographical information for your sources. That's going to be the article names, the author names, the publication dates, and the publications, the dates, and who the publisher is. Okay? So all that should go in one column. Then in the center column, that's the information that you get from the source. Okay? Where it came from, what other materials presented in the same issue, quotations from the source, elements that are going to help you understand what information you're getting out of it and what kind of viewpoint the information has. Okay? And then in your third column, you're going to place exploratory notes. Okay? Exploratory notes are going to be a self-evaluation of the value of the source, the questions that the source raises, and ideas about how the source's information fits in with your thesis. So exploratory notes is entirely how you are interpreting those facts that you pulled from the article, okay, or from whatever source you're using, okay. Your interpretation of how you can use it, your interpretation of its trustworthiness, your evaluation of it, any further questions that the source raises that maybe you hadn't thought of before, that's all going to go in your exploratory notes. So there's 4 primary functions for sources when you are doing research. First one is for background information. Okay. When you're doing background information, you're presenting perspective for the subject in a greater context. Okay. So your research could be showing you what that greater context is, what's going on surrounding the topic, or the circumstances of the topic. Okay. It could be for an alternate viewpoint, counter to your thesis, to which you would summarize and respond. Okay? So if you're looking for something on your opposition viewpoint that you can refute, that could be what your research could be useful for. Okay? If it's an alternative view that agrees with your thesis, though, you might want to mention it briefly and say, okay, there's some other people that have this viewpoint, but they arrived to it from a different manner than I am. That's not to say that they're wrong. They're still on the right side of things. It's just that they have a different approach. Okay? You can use it as information or testimony. Okay? As evidence for your own thesis. This is going to be what you're going to present as facts to back up the reasoning for your argument. You can also use information or testimony if it is counter to your position or raises doubts about your thesis, because this is the stuff that you need to refute. Okay? This is the information that you need to get your own spin on and make sure that your audience understands, hey, these guys have the wrong viewpoint. This is why. They're looking at this fact. They're not interpreting it right. Okay? The fourth function is as theory or method to influence the approach. Okay? Sometimes you need to do research in order to know how to approach the topic when you're actually doing the writing. Okay, I actually used sources for this myself when I did my own master's thesis, because I had to have a terminology and a methodology for how I was looking at my sources, because I was doing an English thesis and I had to have some kind of basis and some kind of theory as to how I was analyzing the works that I was looking at. So I wound up going with mythology, okay, and looking for mythological approaches. And the main ones that I was looking at primarily was the hero's journey, but there's also other ways that you could think of myth. Okay, so eventually what it came down to was I had 2 sources that were discussing the hero's journey specifically. Okay, one was the direct source from Joseph Campbell, and the second one was from a Hollywood screenwriter who had adapted Campbell's format to the 3-act style of a movie screenplay. Then the second source I used was a form called the American monomyth, which is kind of similar to a comic book story where you have an outsider hero coming in to save the day from a violated community. Okay? And then the third form is a field called Semiotics, which deals with how symbols are created by culture. Okay? There are 2 really good sources on semiotics in modern culture. One of them is Roland Barthes, and the other is Martin Blonsky. Okay, Marshall Blonsky. Marshall Blonsky. They both did essays showing how stuff became symbolic and stuff became mythic in the sense that it is now accepted that that is the way things are. Okay? So that's what semiotics goes to. But I use those sources as the basis for, all right, this is how I'm going to approach looking at these works. Okay, this is how I'm going to approach reading and interpreting this stuff and showing how they came to these types of stories and these types of conclusions. All right, let's talk about how you evaluate the sources that you're using. So for reliability. So look at how accurate the source is against other sources reporting the same or similar facts. Okay. One thing to question here is, are facts distorted to serve the author's own agenda? Okay. This could be just as simple as talking about the language. Okay. The language being used. So for instance, there's a pulled out of the news right now. There's currently a movement right now in the Biden administration, the Department of Education, to reform some rules for higher education institutes involving sexual assault. Okay, reports of sexual assault and how administrators are supposed to respond to that. Okay, the previous Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, who I have intimate experience with because she used to run the schools in Michigan and basically ran them into the ground. DeVos really didn't care. So she basically let a lot of guidance on this topic lapse and spent more time advocating for the accused than for victims. Okay? The Biden administration, his new Secretary of Education, who is actually a former teacher, public school teacher, knows what he's talking about. He's getting ready to redo those standards, to redo those rules, and to give a different policy as to how sexual assault cases are to be handled. Okay, focusing more on the victim than on the perpetrator, but making the victim feel more comfortable rather than coddling the perpetrator, which the old rules tended to do. Okay, rather, I shouldn't say the perpetrator, I should say the accused, because all these are usually prior to any legal action taking place. Okay, so I have to be fair here. But the problem is that there's a lot of people who like DeVos, and they, particularly on the conservative spectrum, and they have a different viewpoint on this, and they're going to try to make their viewpoint sound more acceptable than the alternative, which is, hey, let's help rape victims instead of victim blaming them. Okay? So I've actually recently seen a headline from a magazine called National Review, which is we've talked about National Review. They were the ones that gave Armand White his platform. Okay? He writes for them. They have a headline on this topic that talks about Biden administration removing due process for many students. So basically, they're framing it as you're taking away their right to due process under the law by emphasizing that victims need to be helped rather than accused. Okay? It's a really, really manipulative language that they're using with the same set of facts, but they're manipulating it to sound sinister as opposed to what it actually is, which is victim services. How can that be sinister? Okay? National Review found a way to make it sinister. Okay? So, keep that in mind. You have to look at how stuff is being reported, how the language is being used, the tone that's being used, what kind of stuff is being done to report it, either as positive or negative. That'll give you an idea of where the biases lie. Okay? Look at how it's reported against other sources as well. That's another example there, kind of less extreme than the one I usually use about the Egyptology articles where four out of five say that it was a combination of engineering and human labor that built the pyramids, where the fifth one said no, it was a bunch of aliens that came down. Okay, obviously the fifth one's the outlier. The fifth one's not going to be usable. Okay. So, is the manipulation of facts acknowledged by the author? Are they going to tell you that these could be interpreted differently? Okay. Acknowledging how it can be manipulated or massaged actually goes a long way to improving the credibility. If they're willing to admit that, hey, there's a possibility that people will be interpreting these things differently, or trying to manipulate them to make a certain side look better, okay? If they're willing to admit to that, that's actually going to help their credibility. Are the facts checked by an independent source? That's a big thing here, okay? If you have your facts, and they can be fact-checked independently by sites such as PolitiFact or Snopes or any of these other fact-checkers, okay, then they're going to be more credible. Okay, that writer's going to be more credible because they're using actual fact. Whatever their interpretation is, the facts are actually still accurate. Okay? How well edited is the source? Okay? Now, in this case, editing is more of an issue with web-based sources than print sources. However, a poorly edited article is going to be less credible because it's going to be a matter of, does somebody care enough about getting their point across that they're going to make it clearly, or they're just going to throw something together because they really don't give a crap. Okay? Let's talk about credibility. Okay? Reliability is external factors. And that is basically interpretation, facts, how they're reported, things like that. Credibility involves internal factors. Okay? This is the author himself. How much do you trust the author? Who is the author? Are they an expert in the field? Okay? Is it somebody that is well respected? Somebody that has the knowledge? Somebody that has the experience? Is it a trustworthy observer? Someone who has the experience, that they have been there, that they know what they're talking about, they know what the score is, they know what the deal is, and they want to make sure that you know what the deal is too? Is it just something shallow, like you like the way the author dresses? Okay? Do they look like an author? Do they look professional? Or do they look like somebody who just rolled in off the street? Okay? Is it a popular author or a not so popular author? Is it somebody that has a large audience or maybe a small but devoted one? Okay? These all add up to a sense of how much you trust the author. When it comes down to popular versus not so popular, not only do you look at the size of their audience, but look at who's in that audience. Do they have a wide range of people, or is it just a little niche? Okay? Writers earn their credibility through moral courage, integrity, and consistency of principle. Okay? When you're talking about ethical and credible and courageous writers and writers with integrity, there's a couple of examples that come to mind. Okay? Both of them have, funnily enough, have had movies about them. Okay? There is the team of Woodward and Bernstein, which, if you're a history buff, you know these guys. Okay? Woodward and Bernstein were reporters for the Washington Post, and they are credited with having broken open the story of Watergate. Okay? Which ultimately, in 1974, led to Richard Nixon resigning the presidency in disgrace to avoid getting impeached and removed. Okay? So, those are one example, and they had a lot of opposition against them. Nixon himself was using basically the FBI as a hit squad to take down people on his enemies list. And Woodward and Bernstein were on that list, but they managed to get their stories out there, and they managed to get the public sentiment against the president. Okay? Another group that's had a movie made about them is the our team of writers for the Boston Globe. Okay, I don't exactly know their names, but I do know that they all worked on a Sunday magazine for the newspaper called Spotlight, which incidentally is the name of the movie that was written about them. Why are these guys courageous? Well, these guys took on the Catholic Church, and these guys were basically collecting all the evidence that was needed to show that pedophiles pedophile priests were not being disciplined the way they should have been. They were not facing criminal charges. And in fact, all they were doing was shuffled around to different churches and being allowed to victimize people again. Okay? Scandal went all the way to the Vatican. Eventually led to a lot of priests getting defrocked, a lot of them facing criminal charges. There was a investigation throughout the church. Okay? This actually, some people speculate this actually may have led to Pope Benedict XIII stepping down from the papacy, which led to Francis becoming the Pope. Okay, so these are also guys that faced a lot of headwind when it came to their writing, because there are a lot of people who were Catholics who said, "Why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this. This is blasphemy," so on and so forth. But they kept at it, and they got their story, and there were real-world consequences for their writing. So again, moral courage, integrity, consistency of principle. That is how writers earn their credibility. All right, so let's talk about angle of vision now. Okay, when you're dealing with evaluating the sources, what's their viewpoint? How does the author's underlying values, assumptions, or beliefs shape the argument as it is presented? Okay. What kind of politics do they have? Okay, where do they land on the political spectrum? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so what kind of stuff do they have to say? Okay, and what kind of beliefs do they have? What is the education level of that writer? Okay, I will say there are actually now certain individuals in the government who would actually be less credible than some certain authors, okay, on this angle of vision element because of the education aspect, okay. We have a few congressmen. There are a couple. I know for sure a couple of freshman congressmen who are college dropouts, okay. They never got a degree. All they have is their basic high school diploma, okay. So education is going to be a key to determining the angle of vision. Maybe they don't have as much experience or as much education as it takes to understand every nuance of the topic. Look at their upbringing. What kind of family life did they have? What kind of neighborhood, what kind of community did they live in? What kind of employment have they done? What kind of background do they have? What did their parents do for a living? Okay, a lot of talk has been made about President Biden and his family coming from a blue collar family in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Okay, very blue collar, very much in line with the steel industry, with shipping, all sorts of stuff. Okay, so that kind of led him to having a reputation as being a bit more relatable. Okay, in terms of he understands what people are going through. Okay. They have reputation. What have they done to earn a good or bad reputation? Okay, what has that author done in the past that has said, okay, that's a good thing. Oh, wait, no, that's not so good. Okay. Also, research the genre. Okay, this will also give you an idea on the angle of vision. So, evaluate the audience. Who are they talking to? What kind of audience is the expected audience for this particular writing? Okay. Also look at the market niche. What corner of the market does the publication exist for? Okay. Are they trying to reach a certain segment of the audience, certain age group, certain education level, certain political affiliation, certain religious affiliation, so on and so forth? Okay. What is the audience's market? Also, political reputation of the publication. Where have they stood in the past on controversial political issues? What have they done in the past in terms of advocacy or activism or anything like that? That gets us to the political spectrum. Okay? So, I will say that a base knowledge of the political spectrum and how authors, publishers, and websites fall in the chart is useful in the evaluation of sources. Okay? Very useful. Extremely useful. Okay? Knowing whether somebody's right-wing, left-wing, or centrist. Okay? Obvious bias toward one end of the spectrum or the other can lead to coloring of facts to suit their politics, may render those facts unusable for the sake of a persuasive essay. Okay, keep that in mind. If there is too much bias present, there's going to be not much difference between facts and fabrication. Okay, so make sure that you are working with someone that what their leanings are, and you know what their reputation is. So the next slide in the slideshow contains some examples of authors, publications, and blogs, and where they all lie on the political spectrum. So here's the thing. The next slide has an out-of-date chart. Okay, it does not include authors, but it does include publications, websites, that sort of thing. Okay, so what we're going to do, if you download the slides, the version that you've got is an out-of-date version. But there is a link to the current version. And we're going to take a look at that. Alright, so here we are. This is a media bias chart. It was originally developed by Vanessa Otero, who is a professor of public policy. This is now the 7th version of it. It is accurate through January of this year. Okay? Now, here's the interesting thing about this chart. It not only charts the publications based on the political spectrum, it also rates them based on how trustworthy and honest they are. Okay? So if you look at this, it's on an X and Y chart. Okay? The X-axis, the Y-axis is the bias. Okay? Where their politics lie. Put it at the center here, that's the centrist. It's at the middle. Then as you go further to either the right or the left wing, it goes skews, hyperpartisan, and then most extreme left. Okay? Then you have skews, hyperpartisan, most extreme right. Okay? Now if you look at the x-axis, the vertical, that is news value and reliability. Okay? So this is how they define it. Starting at the top there, being perfect. Okay? The original fact reporting is going to be at the very top grid. Down here would be fact reporting. Mostly analysis or a mix of facts reporting and analysis. An analysis or high variation reliability. And we're starting to get into some questionable stuff. Is opinion or high variation reliability. Now remember, the difference between analysis and opinion is that analysis is strictly focused on facts, whereas the opinion writer is giving you what they feel. Okay? Below there, selective, incomplete, unfair persuasion, propaganda, or other issues. Okay? Next one down contains misleading info. And then at the very bottom contains inaccurate / fabricated info. These two are basically the if you wanted to compare with that meme tier maker, okay, these guys would be crap tier. Okay. So let's take a look quickly at what we have here on where people lie on this chart. Starting at the very top here, at the middle. You see the three that are fully in the original fact reporting. AP, Reuters, UPI. Those are all newswire services. Okay, they have a reputation to maintain. They have to be perfect. Okay. Down from there we have fact reporting ranging, skewing left to right. It's all within this range. Take a look at we have some major outlets out here. Okay. If you see what we have here. NPR is in that group, ABC, NBC, CBS, The Hill is going toward the right, Wall Street Journal, Christianity Today, Bloomberg, Al Jazeera, Washington Post, CNN is starting to drift into the next one down. Then you have The Guardian, okay, New York Times is in this, ProPublica, which is a nonprofit news organization, Christian Science Monitor, U.S. News and World Report, Fortune is in there. Okay, CNBC, USA Today is in there. Okay. Down to the next tier, mostly analysis or mix of fact reporting analysis. Look at who's here. These are some more popular ones. Okay, MSNBC is in this. Rasmussen Reports is in this. Quillette, The Dispatch, Forbes, Politico, Mediaite, Common Dreams, The Atlantic, Market Watch is in here. CNN starting to drift into analysis here. We have another Washington paper, the Washington Free Beacon, which I haven't heard of. Okay. Then we get down here, analysis or high variation reliability. Now we're starting to go split off a lot from the center in terms of left wing and right wing bias. Okay, it's starting to go more into leaning as opposed to or hyperpartisan as opposed to skewing. Okay, so look at who we have here on the left wing: HuffPost, Progressive, the Daily Beast, Slate, The Root, The Week, TV, MSNBC, Jacobin. Okay. Look at the right wing: Real Clear Politics, Sputnik, the New York Post, Fox News website. Okay. Washington Examiner. I misspoke earlier. Washington Examiner and the Times are both on the right wing. Okay. National Review, Armand White's. Okay. CBN, Christian Broadcasting Network. That is the news outlet for the 700 Club. Okay. Let's go down further. Opinion or high variation reliability. We actually have one in the center. That is the Daily Mail, which is pretty much equivalent to a supermarket tabloid in Britain. Okay. But again, we have a bit more splitting here. The biggest outlet on the left wing over here is Jezebel. But look at who's on the right wing. Look, RT America, which is a branch of the Russian government. MRC Newsbusters, Breitbart. Okay. Those guys are on the right. Those things are on the hyperpartisan right wing. Okay. Get down here, we're starting to get to ones that are bordering on extreme right wing. Okay. But this is in selective, incomplete, unfair persuasion, propaganda, or other issues. Look at what we have. We have Daily Kos, Occupy Democrats, Alternate, Bipartisan Report, Wonkette, and the Palmer Report. Okay, that's on the left wing. On the right wing, look at what we got. Daily Caller, Daily Wire, PragerU, which is a popular YouTube channel that I cannot recommend because I've seen some of the samples of their material and oh boy. Okay. Fox News TV, one that you've probably heard of in the news a lot. OAN One American News. Okay. American Thinker, American Greatness, American Spectator, Newsmax. Okay. So these are all guys that are getting selective, incomplete, unfair persuasion. It's bordering on propaganda. Okay. Contains misleading info. Here's an interesting trend. Misleading info, the only one that borders on this on the left wing is the Palmer Report. Nothing else there. But look over on the right wing. We have the Epoch Times, which is a branch of a Chinese cult. Okay. But then you also have GP, you have Big League Politics, and InfoWars, which for the longest time was actually in the bottom corner, but I guess they've actually found worse sources than InfoWars. Because now it contains inaccurate / fabricated info. So we on the right wing, Natural News, and Before It's News. But then you have some to the center here. You have National Enquirer, supermarket tabloid, WorldTruth.tv, which is a television and internet branch off from the Epoch Times. It's my understanding, at least. Okay, so this gives you an idea of what kind of biases we have and what kind of trustworthiness versus non-trustworthiness that you find on both sides of the spectrum. Okay. Interesting that all of the ones that are misleading or inaccurate, none of them fall onto the left side of the chart here. Kind of interesting. So the next thing to take a look at is the degree of advocacy when you're evaluating the sources. Okay, how obviously does an author take a stance in the source? Okay, what kind of things are they doing to show that they've taken a stance? Okay, so first thing to think about is whether the author is being objective or persuasive. Okay, are they just trying to report the facts, or are they trying to convince you that they're on the right side of things? So ask yourself this: does the author have skin in the game? Do they have a personal stake in the outcome of that argument? Is it going to benefit or detract from them one way or the other? Also, is the author a mere observer? Okay? Are they just looking on the outside, looking in and trying to determine for themselves who's right, who's wrong on an unbiased level? Or do they have some kind of personal bias or personal leaning that's going to lead them one way or the other? Do they have membership in advocacy organizations such as the NRA, the Sierra Club, or the John Birch Society? Okay, those are just examples. There's a whole lot of advocacy organizations out there. If the writer of your source is a member of one of those advocacy organizations, it's going to immediately put their credibility into question, because they may be writing something just to advance the agenda of that organization and not necessarily because it's right. Okay? Does the author hold a grudge? Okay? Can you see that the author has an obvious axe to grind? Or is there any sources outside of this that tell you that they've got an axe to grind? Weigh all the evidence very carefully, because there may be some people who benefit from you thinking that an author is unreliable or untruthful or is just holding a grudge. But because of this, the interpretation of data can be called into question, because they may be just using that data to advance the grudge. To say, hey, here's why I hold this grudge. It's because this guy's a jerk. And here's the empirical evidence that shows that he's a jerk, even though I've manipulated it, but the evidence shows he's a jerk. Okay? Keep in mind, neutrality will usually provide better resources. If they're trying to stay within the center, they're going to be a little bit more unbiased. There's going to be more neutral. It's going to be more factual. It's going to be more based in logic rather than feels. Okay? Social media, though, tends to be a minefield of opinions, so be cautious about using sources linked to sites like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth. People love to share news items. Okay? Now, I know a lot of these places have gotten a bit more vigilant in terms of fact-checking, but stuff still falls through the cracks. Okay? People will still mistake articles from The Onion as legit news. Okay? It's just a fact of life. Some people are dumb. Alright? Then there are also concerted trolling efforts, which tend to center on social media. So, if you're going to be doing any of your research by following links from social media, it's going to be vital to be able to detect fake accounts that may not be trustworthy. One way that you can train yourself to do this, we're actually going to do right now. There was a site that was produced last year by Clemson University. It's a site called Spot the Troll. It's going to be a 10-question quiz that will train you to spot professional trolling. Now, here's the fun part. The stuff that's in this quiz comes from actual, real social media accounts. Okay? So, let's go ahead and take a look. So, Clemson University Media Forensic Hub presents Spot the Troll, a quiz where you examine images of real social media content and decide whether it's from a legitimate account or an internet troll. Welcome, real human. A troll is a fake social media account often created to spread misleading information. Each of the following 8 profiles include a brief selection of posts from a single social media account. You decide if each is an authentic account or a professional troll. After each profile, you'll receive the signs that can help you determine if it's a troll or not. Alright? So, if everybody's ready, let's go ahead to profile 1 and see what we can do. So, how this is going to work is that we're going to have to go through all the posts that they present from each profile. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to think it over and evaluate whether it is legit or not. And then when we come back, we'll tell you whether it was a legit or a troll. Okay? Here we go. Profile number 1. This is a Twitter profile. Select an answer at the bottom. All right, so let's take a look at all the elements of this screen. We have an account from Chloe Evans at Chloe Eva 12. Okay, we have a landscape photo. We have a fairly attractive woman there. She lists herself as a student living in Atlanta. Joined in June of 2014. Has 196 following. 196 accounts she's following and 54 that she's a follower of. All right. So, first post we're looking at. This is all going to hell. Hashtag dead horse. Hey, we're off to a roaring start. All right. But who's responsible? Obama? Hashtag dead horse. Hashtag chemical accident Louisiana. And we have a screenshot from CNN. Okay. Let's see. I think she's focusing on this area right here. Plant explosion in Centerville caused panic. The plant explosion at Columbian Chemicals Company, Centerville, Louisiana, caused a wave of panic among the residents of the nearest towns. Okay? Alright, next one. Bravery is the capacity to behave properly even when scared half to death. Omar N. Bradley. It's hashtag quote, hashtag true. Hashtag something you didn't know about me. I used to be a model. Don't ask what the meaning of life is, you define it. Hashtag quote, hashtag true. Maturity is a bitter disappointment for which no remedy exists unless laughter could be said to remedy anything. Hashtag Kurt Vonnegut. Alright, so select an answer. Profile is either troll or legit. Okay? Take 2 minutes here. Think about what you've just read here, what you've just seen, all the visual elements and everything, and then write up for the discussion board your reasoning why you think it's a troll or why you think it's legit. 2 minutes. You got your answer? Are you ready? Here we go. This profile is a troll. Chloe was a Russian-made troll account. Hundreds of Twitter accounts like Chloe were active throughout 2014 and 2015. These trolls were an early, highly automated effort by the Internet Research Agency, or IRA, based in St. Petersburg, Russia. Unfortunately, the agency has gotten much, much better at its job. Okay? So, we're going to take a look at the signs. This is their analysis of the account. Okay? Some signs that it's a possible troll. First one. Hoax events. Early IRA accounts like Chloe pushed hoax events that never happened, like the CNN post below, which was a fake story photoshopped to look real. Okay? Like I said, she wanted us to look at this part. Plant explosion in Centerville caused panic. Okay? Here's how you can tell this is fake. Okay? 1. writing style doesn't match. Okay, look at the other headlines on CNN. Okay, they typically don't use past tense. Okay. Second, we have a color disparity between this caption box and the rest of the white that's on this image. Number 3, if you know CNN's website around this time, they usually have 3 related stories underneath the main headline right here. Okay? In fact, they have on this one too. Notice the headline, Obama, we will degrade, ultimately destroy ISIS. Okay? And then it has 3 stories that are related to that. What are the 3 stories under the plant explosion in Centerville caused panic? Well, they're all stories about the Oscar Pistorius murder trial. Okay? Which is the actual headline that was supposed to be here. Also notice that this photo has no photo credit. Okay? Larger photos like this that are not thumbnails like these down here are going to have a photo credit. This one does not. Okay? So that's a big giveaway there. All right? Next. Profile images of attractive women. These fake accounts typically used profile images of women in their 20s. This is a common tactic of internet charlatans still today. Because most of the people who fall for these are men, and sometimes men can be horny idiots. Let's put it that way. Okay? So, be wary of anything that uses something like this, which actually looks like a model stock photography, as their profile image. Okay? So now we're going to take a look at Profile 2. Incidentally, if you go to this site and go through this quiz, Clemson has a full analysis of each of the sites. So it'll give you a little bit more detail as to how they were able to determine it was a troll or if it was legit. Okay? So let's take a look at Profile number 2. Alright, so Profile number 2 of 8, another Twitter profile. This is for a lady named Harmony Anderson, at Harmony Anders. We have kind of patriotic looking cover photo there. Youngish woman there. The college girl who managed to stay conservative. Hashtag pro-life. Hashtag pro-2A. Hashtag America First. This is my second account where I share my political and social views. It's from Ankeny, Ohio, Iowa. Joined September of 2019. It's following 3,162 Twitter accounts and has 4,216 followers. Okay? Alright, so let's take a look at the posts that Harmony Anderson places on her second account where she shares her political and social views. Alright. Pennsylvania voter rolls near Pittsburgh are full of inaccuracies. 1,583 dead people registered to vote. 7,500 flagged as duplicate voters. Nearly 50 born in the 1800s, 2020 runs through Pennsylvania. RT for National Voter ID Now. US Trump 2020. It goes to a video from a source called Cup of Joe. It says leaked DNC group teaches illegals to vote. All right. Next one. 22 million or even more illegals now in America, and the Dems want them all to have full citizenship and voting rights. The Demo-Rat Party has been getting illegal votes for years, because that's the only way Bloomberg or any Dem candidate can win. Signed Emmy. It's kind of odd. Okay, another video. Another very conservative-leaning video. Okay? Trying their best to make the Democrats look bad. Okay? Next one. Retweet from Melania Trump. Thank you, Sarvodaya School, for welcoming me with lovely Tilak and RT tradition. Okay. Next one, a retweet from James Woods. Yeah, why would Vogue ever want to put this stunning, timeless classic beauty on their cover when they can have a linebacker in drag? What hypocrites they are. Hashtag FLOTUS is astounding. Okay. Next one. It's possible he's under the impression he's been running for Senate this whole time. It's retweeting a video somebody put out there. My name is Joe Biden. I'm a Democrat candidate for the United States Senate. If you don't like me, you can vote for the other Biden. All right. Next one. I'd heard this before, but it fascinates me that it was almost 30 years ago. He's been talking about it for years and it's only intensified, but Donald Trump is a true patriot. I'm so proud to call this man our leader. It is a never aired Donald Trump interview from 1980. From a site called reelingintheyears.com. Share if you love POTUS. Okay, from Emmy again. All right. So take a couple minutes here. Try to determine whether this is a troll account or a legit account. Again, give your reasoning, and then come back and see if you're right. Have your answer? Here we go. This is a troll account. Okay? Harmony is a troll we attributed to the Russian Internet Research Agency in March of 2020. He then worked with Twitter to have her account suspended. Like many other trolls, Harmony poses as a young woman who has very strong political opinions and sets herself up as direct opposition to an extreme version of people on the other side of the political divide. Harmony's goal is to make us more entrenched and disgusted with one another to make meaningful compromise more difficult. Okay? So, what are the signs that this was a troll? Lack of personal info. It's important to notice what isn't in Harmony's profile. Anything other than politics. There's no identifying info about family, school or work, friends, pets, houseplants, nothing. Okay? So, because she is claims that this is a second blog for her political insights, she apparently thinks that means she doesn't have to tell us about anything else about her life, because theoretically she should have a first account that says this. But let's be honest here. Harmony doesn't exist. There is no first account. Connecting to community. Troll accounts like Harmony often retweet prominent voices. These may include positive and uplifting content to gain credibility and connect with their target audiences. So in order to make sure that she doesn't go 100% negative and thoroughly jack up her credibility, she includes some positive stuff from people who she basically is going to try to bolster. Okay? So posts about the First Lady are going to be part and parcel with that. Okay? Alright, so let's go to the third profile. Here's profile number 3. This is a Facebook profile. Okay, let's take a look at it. It's for a gentleman named Christopher Warwick. Okay, there's his profile picture. His cover picture is basically the same. It's just focused in on his, looks like his wife and his 2 daughters. Okay, he lives in Columbia City, Indiana. He's from Columbia City, Indiana. He has 94 friends. Let's see what the posts are. So first one. Share this violent graphic or graphic photo everywhere and tell Zuckerberg to suck it. Okay? This is why you don't step on the flag. This is why you stand for the national anthem. This is why we don't erase history. You're not a black, white, or yellow, or brown. You're an American. Start acting like it. Oh, that's pleasant. All right. Next. Oh. A caption that goes with the photo. Some things need to always be remembered, honored, and respected. Our country and the heroes fighting it for it, and us, our history, all of it, good and bad. All right. Next post. This photo of Chick-fil-A honoring fallen soldiers on Memorial Day is triggering liberals across social media. Let's make it go viral. Share 1 million times. Okay. All right. So we have a table set up with a folded flag, an empty plate, silverware, wine glass, rose in a bud vase, a brief placard there that describes it as the missing man table, and it also has a Bible. Okay. Kind of weird that this is in a Chick-fil-A. I have seen missing man tables in real life. Usually this is something that you see if you go to the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Okay? Go to a VFW post and almost all of them in their canteen area is going to have a missing man table. This is how you have fun in the tractor. Oh boy, please don't do that for very long. That's all I have to say about that. Daddy instincts are kicking in. Please don't leave your daughter on your shoulders while you're running a combine. All right. Pray for the world. May God bless everyone. Hashtag coronavirus. Okay, so this is a pandemic-related graphic. It's a artistic depiction of Jesus holding an injured world. All right. Don't forget about this place for lunch. Columbia Locker Incorporated Fresh Meats and Deli with their menu board for their lunch specials. All right. Makes you want to reread that passage again. I didn't say the end would be signaled by trumpets. I said Trump Pence. Ha ha. All right. Let's see. Oh no, it's next door. Quick, everyone panic. Oh wait, everyone already is thanks to the media. First COVID-19 case confirmed in Northeast Indiana. Okay? So it's a news story. All right, so look at this. Look at what's present here. Make up your mind whether it's a troll account or a legit account. And then come on back and see if you're right. Everybody think they know this one? All right. This profile is legit. Chris is a real person. Chris is a kind husband and father living in Columbia City, Indiana. We can confirm he is real because we know him personally. So, Chris's account is basically going to be the control account. Okay? One of the control accounts. There's going to be more legit profiles here. But I try to show you that sometimes trolls, sometimes legit accounts could sometimes look like trolls. Okay? So let's see what kind of signs we have that this is legit. Posts about life. Chris shares personal content about his family and his community, such as the local lunch spot recommendation below. It was important that he was showing us the Columbia Locker and their lunch special board. Okay? Alright. And the next one? Multidimensional views. Chris does not push out constant messages supporting extreme views. For example, while some of his political posts are right-leaning, he also pokes fun at President Trump. So the fact that he included this graphic, along with the other stuff that was about respect the military and the missing man table, which tend to be a bit more right-wing hobby horses, that made it clear that this is a legit account because he doesn't have a single lockstep set of political beliefs. Okay? Alright, moving on to profile number 4. Profile number 4 is an Instagram profile. Okay? Let's take a look at it. This is a account called Power to Women. American feminist. She needed a hero, so that's what she became. If you look at her icon here, her account emblem, it is Rosie the Riveter with Donald Trump in a sleeper hold. All right. Let's see. So first one. It's Instagram, so it's going to be mostly graphics. Okay, but there is some commentary. So first off, if this makes you angry, but you're okay with this, then it's not about the flag. 925 likes, 31 comments. Oh, by the way, she has 892 posts, has 9,478 followers, and is following 1,410 accounts. Okay? So there's the first one. Second one. Quote from Bernie Sanders. What Republicans are saying very loudly and clearly is that no woman in this country has the right to control her own body. I disagree. 409 likes and 4 comments. Next one, also Bernie Sanders. We are going to fight to pass the long overdue Equal Rights Amendment. Let me ask the commentary here. Women's rights to control their bodies must be observed and respected. We need a leader who will end this toxic rhetoric that the government has the right to control our bodies. Bernie Sanders is just the one. I have so much respect for him, and I truly believe that he'll make women's lives better. Hashtag feminism. Hashtag intersectional feminism. Hashtag women's march. Hashtag feminist. Hashtag feminist aesthetic. Hashtag Bernie Sanders. Hashtag feel the burn. Hashtag birth control. Hashtag abortions. Hashtag feminists for Bernie. 225 likes, 3 comments. Next one is a video clip of Muffet McGraw, the head coach of the Notre Dame women's basketball team. Okay? With a quote. We don't have enough female role models. We don't have enough visible women leaders. We don't have enough women in power. Okay? Commentary. So lit. Hashtag feminism. Hashtag intersectional feminism. Hashtag women's march. Hashtag feminist. Hashtag feminist aesthetic. Hashtag we are feminists. 136 likes, 0 comments. Alright, in today's episode of Massive Hypocrisy, we have the fetus, every life is precious. We have the dead baby, not my problem. Hypocrisy at its finest. Hashtag feminism, hashtag abortion, hashtag Planned Parenthood, hashtag misogyny, hashtag feminist. 398 likes, 1 comment. Next one. I'm going to try to read this graphic the way I think it's supposed to be read. Ready? Not a single woman was at the White House meeting on women's health. Alright. What's going on with this country? Imagine if dozens of women gathered to make decisions on men's health. Imagine men's reaction to this. However, none of them raised a question whether it is right for men to decide on the issues they have no knowledge and understanding at all. Sick and tired of this. This made me think of how great it would be if we had a government body consisting only of women, and this body could veto any bill it finds discriminatory. Moreover, it could also draft and submit bills concerning women. Just imagine if women could benefit the lives of other women on the governmental level. How cool would this be? Hashtag feminism, hashtag feminist, hashtag government, hashtag White House, hashtag women's health, hashtag men's health, hashtag Planned Parenthood, hashtag women's rights. 120 likes, 3 comments. Alright, so again, evaluate what you've seen here. Tell me if you think it's a troll or a legit account, and tell me why. We'll come back and you'll see if you're right. Alright guys, you think you know you got this one right or not? Let's take a look. This account is a troll. The Instagram account Power to Women is a troll. It was identified by Facebook, which owns Instagram, in October 2019 as a part of a network of 50 Instagram accounts they suspended. These accounts were said by Facebook to be originating in Russia and showed links to the Internet Research Agency. Our good old friends. Alright. So let's see what the signs are that this is a troll. First off, it's an affinity group with no clear organizer. Power to Women presents itself as an affinity group rather than a person. This is likely because Instagram and Facebook users don't typically follow non-famous strangers, but do follow groups they like. Another problematic sign is that no person or organization is listed as running the group. Okay? So we have no accountability here. All we have is a nebulous affinity group called Power to Women that says that they're feminists, but we don't know who's running it. We don't have a name. We don't have an identified account master. For or against. Power to Women takes advantage of its followers' passion to encourage extreme polarization and suggests that compromise is impossible. Okay? For example, this graphic about hijabs versus bikinis with American flag prints. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead to profile number 5. Profile number 5 is another Twitter account. Okay? Let's take a look. It is an account for somebody named Amy G. At Amy G _____ G. Okay? Her cover photo is just a yellow background that says no bad vibes. And she's got what looks kind of like an artsy black and white selfie here. Okay? Daughter, sister, proud black American. I tend to get political. Uh-oh. New York, New York. Joined January 2019. 13.1 thousand accounts that it's following. 13.5 thousand followers. So she's got a lot of followers here. Okay? Let's take a look at her tweets. Republicans better hope the coronavirus isn't spread from kissing ass. Funny. I'll give her that. Alright. You don't have to say anything to the haters. You don't have to acknowledge them at all. You just wake up every morning and be the best you can be. And that usually tends to shut them up. Michelle Obama. Okay. On Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, we make America great again by voting this nightmare out of office. Hashtag Trump is a Russian asset. Hashtag Russian interference. Okay. Next one. American injustice. Crystal Mason, black Texas woman, accidentally voted while on probation, didn't know it was illegal. 5 years in prison. Roger Stone, rich white man, knowingly lied to Congress, tampered with witnesses, threatened the federal judge. Only 3 years in prison. Okay. Is I going to jail? The 6-year-old was held at a mental health facility for 2 days and reportedly sedated without her mother's permission after allegedly having a tantrum at school. This is outrageous. She is 6. Okay? That's actually a real incident that took place. They have a video here from Now This. Okay? Alright. Republican logic. Birth control? Ban it. Abortion? Ban it. Gay marriage? Ban it. Guns? Look, banning things never works. People will always find ways to get them. Hashtag Seattle shooting. Hashtag enough is enough. Alright, so again, take a look at this. Think it over. Tell us whether you think it's a troll or a legit account and why. And then we'll come back and see if you're right. think you know? Let's see if you're right. This account is a troll account. Amy is a troll account. Like the previous right-leaning Twitter account, we identified Amy as Russian and worked with Twitter to suspend the account in March 2020. Amy pretends to be a left-leaning black woman, a common tactic among trolls. Amy's strategy is to engage with the black community and other left-leaning users, gain followers among those users, and then use her influence to manipulate users' conversations and push particular political agendas. Okay? Let's take a look at what signs we have that she's a troll. Mimicking users who are part of a real and politically focused online community. During the 2016 presidential campaign, dozens of Russian accounts engaged in the Black Lives Matter community pretending to be minorities. This is a tactic referred to as digital blackface, and it has a long history online. Trolls continue to pretend to be members of many different online communities today, everything from Korean pop music fans to LGBTQ activists. Okay? So basically they're impersonating it's a white man probably impersonating a black woman. Right? Fanning the flames. Like some right-wing trolls, Amy often frames real events and issues in a way that intensifies anger and division. Many real users may also do this for entirely valid reasons, but some disinformation operations have made anger and disgust into goals unto themselves. Okay? Alright, moving on to profile number 6. So, this is another Twitter profile. Let's see if we can finally get one that's legit. Alright? So, this account is for Chinjirai Kumanyika. Okay, catch a tweet down. He's got a cover photo that is a bottled black background that just has one word, uncivil. And you got a photo here. Okay, photo of the guy. Scholar, journalist, and activist who works as an assistant professor in Rutgers University's Department of Journalism and Media Studies. Lives in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, joined in September of 2009. He's following 2,927 accounts and has 19.7 thousand followers. Okay? So this guy might be influential as well. Let's take a look at what he's got. Alright. While the programs that keep us safe, jobs, schools, public defenders, are being cut, police get a $14 million budget raise. At a time when police are killing black people, that has to change. Watch the hashtag Philly Police Budget Hearing 6-1. Testify to hashtag Fund Communities, hashtag Defund the Police. Post 6 of 9. Okay? It's a retweet of an account called Movement Alliance Project, which itself was posting a virtual flyer for a to try to raise awareness of this. Okay? How to sign up to testify at the public hearing June 9th for what Philly needs instead of more money for police. Okay, 6 out of 9, that's June 9th. Okay? Alright. So it's just basically instructions on how to sign up. Next one. Man forging a check to get groceries in a crisis. Criminal. People damaging property to express justified rage and people taking property to survive. Looters. Corporations that starve economy through tax cuts and $500 billion bailouts. Corporate heroes. Alright, next. And just like that, blue lives didn't matter anymore. Alright. What a relief to see that Joe Biden stands with what... Oh, wait, never mind. So, it's a retweet of Bernie Sanders. On this hashtag Mayday 2020, I stand with the workers at Amazon, Whole Foods, Instacart, and Target who are on strike. Essential workers are putting their lives on the line and deserve protection and hazard pay. The endless corporate greed has got to end. Alright. I left track recording in Adobe Audition last night around 7 p.m. Just got to my computer right now and it was still recording. Wow. Brilliant piece explaining why COVID-19 is disproportionately affecting black women. The disparate impact of the coronavirus on black women is revealing and deepening existing inequalities. Fighting it requires an intersectional approach. Alright. So, think it over. Decide for yourself whether this is a troll or a legit account, and then come on back and see if you're right. Do you think you know? Let's see if you're right. This account is legit. Professor Kumanika is a real person. As his profile indicates, he is a scholar, journalist, and activist at Rutgers University. All right? So how can we tell this is a legit account? He has identifiable information. While many real users prefer to remain anonymous on social media for a variety of valid reasons, all troll accounts are anonymous. Professional trolls avoid using identifying information that is easy to debunk, as Professor Kumanika does in his profile. He had a lot of information there to tell you who he was. Okay? So that right there should be a big sign that this is not a troll. He also has local focus. Trolls tend to cast a wide national or global net within the focus of their content rather than locally oriented items like the post below. Keep that in mind. Most troll accounts are going to look at stuff that has a bigger, wider picture than just an individual area. Okay? Alright, so let's take a look at profile number 7. Alright, this is another Instagram profile. Okay? Let's take a look at it. This is a account called Nevada Blue Line. Nevada Peace Officers. Thin Blue Line and Blue Lives Matters. Let's support our heroes in blue together. Hashtag Back the Blue. Gee, I wonder what kind of opinions they're going to have. Alright? Let's take a look. Alright. No matter the patch, we are all family, and family sticks together. 73 likes. Police are the most mistreated people in America, but that's about to change. Let's do it together. 164 likes, 5 comments. Thank you to all the moms working patrol today. You have a warrior's heart and a mother's love. Thank you for serving and protecting. 357 likes, 4 comments. Law enforcement, we face what you fear. Police are needed to keep us safe from the criminals among us and the horrors of the world around us. Without them, we would be vulnerable and helpless. They are needed, for without them, we are alone. Without police, everything would change. I support the men and women in blue, now and forever. Blue Lives Matter. 202 likes, 12 comments. A society that wants to make war with the police better learn to make friends with its criminals. Evil is powerless if the good are unafraid. 111 likes, 3 comments. I don't always bite the bad guy. Just kidding, yes I do. Do you know that police dogs can and do bite with up to about 240 pounds of force or more? They are trained to contain potential threats, bite and hold, but they should release if the perpetrator stops resisting and fighting back. Hashtag Thick Blue Line, hashtag Blue Lives Matter, hashtag Hold the Line, hashtag Back the Blue, hashtag Swole Patrol, hashtag Fit for Duty, hashtag We Fight What You Fear, hashtag We Own the Night, hashtag Relentless Defender, hashtag Law Enforcement, hashtag Thin Blue Line, hashtag Act of Kindness, hashtag Above and Beyond, hashtag Oath of Honor, hashtag Officer Safety, hashtag Lead by Example, hashtag Sheepdog, hashtag Stay Vigilant, hashtag Always Strapped, hashtag A Hero Remembered Never Dies, hashtag Nevada Police, hashtag Nevada, hashtag Police, hashtag Police Nevada, hashtag US Police. 454 likes, 4 comments. Finally, last one, just a photo. Hashtag Police, hashtag Nevada Police, hashtag Nevada, hashtag K9. 37 likes. Okay, after all that word hash, let's go ahead and make your decision. Is it a troll account or is it a legit account? And tell us why. And then come on back, see if you're right. Let's see if you're right. All right, this profile is a troll. The Instagram account, the Vada Blue Line, is a troll. It was also identified by Facebook as part of the October 2019 network of troll accounts originating in Russia. As you've seen with previous troll accounts in this quiz, disinformation attacks multiple perspectives in many cultural conflicts. This account further illustrates that. So let's see what the signs were. It's a divisive affinity group. Like Power to Women, this group pushes a very for us or against us worldview. It's not an individual's account. It is for a group, very specific group. Okay. It also has a swing state affiliation. Trolls often associate themselves with a swing state to attract followers. However, closer examination often reveals no content focused on the state they claim to be from, in this case Nevada, and no information about the organizer who runs the account. Okay? So, just because it says it's in a swing state doesn't necessarily mean that that's the truth. Alright, let's take a look at the last profile. Alright, so this is a Facebook profile. Alright? Let's take a look at it. Fellow's name is Mike Adams. Okay? He's got a profile photo here. Looks like he's holding a bunch of a very large cabbage and a puppy. His cover photo is two hands holding cherries, and it's got a tag for naturalnews.com. I think we talked about them in our media bias chart. They showed up in the deliberate falsehood area on the right wing. All right. So, Mike Adams, known as the Health Ranger, is an outspoken consumer health advocate. Lives in Austin, Texas, from Tucson, Arizona. Has 54,653 followers. All right. Let's see what Mike has to say. Major U.S. brands demand EPA take action to stop pre-harvest spraying of toxic glyphosate on food crops, which is basically the same headline down here from Science News. Okay? 5 vegetable sprouts good for your health. All right? Naturalnewsblogs.com. There's no doubt that sprout eating has a variety of nutritional and health benefits, so on and so forth. So he basically just comments the title of the article. All right. The geoengineering chemical of the future that has been dispersed by jet aircraft for decades. Hashtag chemtrails. Now we're kind of getting into some tinfoil hat stuff here. And again, this is from Natural News. Okay? Pesticides, GMO, BPA, hormones. Content isn't available right now. It's either been deleted or only shared with a small group of people. Think about it. Content is available. Content isn't available. Wheatgrass literally has the ability to turn gray hair back to its natural color. Another article from Natural News. All right. So, take a look. Think it over. Is this a troll account or is it legit? Give you a few minutes to figure that out. Come on back, see if you're right. You think you got it figured out? Let's see if you're right. This profile is legit. Surprised? Mike Adams, the health ranger, is a real person. He's the founder and owner of the website Natural News, so he's the BS merchant who runs that site. His personal Facebook page is a tool to push users to his website where they will find sensational news stories, sometimes with little truth to them. Okay? As that bias in media chart actually showed us. Natural News was on there in the blatant falsehood category. Okay? Signs that this is legit. Misinformation for profit. Mike Adams uses social media to promote the tabloid-like stories from the websites where he sells his products. So it's not about, the site isn't about the news, it's about how much he can bilk his followers for products that probably are the height of quackery. Okay? And then content not available. Multiple removed posts are a huge red flag in determining trustworthiness, but they don't always prove that the account itself is fake. Okay? Remember, there were 4 articles that had been removed. It says when this happens, it's usually because the owner only shared it with a small group of people, changed who could see it, or it's been deleted. This has also been happening lately if it violates any fact-checking elements from Facebook. Okay? Especially if it's something on some kind of incendiary topic. Particularly right now, it would be mostly pandemic related. If it's vaccine misinformation or misinformation about COVID-19, it's going to get flagged like this. Spotting trolls is going to be a very valuable skill for you if you're going to be looking at social media as a springboard to find research sources. Let's talk about web sources themselves. Web sources can be wonderful in that they are convenient to find and easy to use, but they can also be a minefield of opinionated articles and urban myths. Evaluate web sources similarly to how print sources are judged. Okay? Look at them very critically. Critical reading and research into sites to help evaluate all of these categories. Okay? So, when it comes to websites, evaluating the authority. Who's the page sponsor? Who is paying for the website? Okay? Are the author credentials identified? Can you easily tell who this person is? Are the sponsors' motivations clearly stated from the homepage, or can you find their motivations? A lot of legit pages are going to have an About Us or mission statement or something like that. Okay? If you can see what their goals are, that might help you determine whether they have some kind of authority or not. Also, contact information. Most legit sites also have some contact information where you can reach them outside of internet spaces, typically involving possibly email or possibly physical addresses or telephone numbers. Look at objectivity. Is there a clear purpose to the site? Are they trying to lead you one way or another? Is there an explicit point of view? Okay? Are they trying to show on one end of the spectrum or another? Are the author affiliations listed? Do you know where this author came from? What kind of stuff they've done in the past? What kind of reputation they have? Is the audience identified? Do you know who this was aimed at? You have coverage. What topics are included on the site? What kind of stuff are they writing about? What kind of stuff are they exploring? Is there a suitable depth of coverage? Do they go in depth enough? Do they use enough information, give you enough details that you can make up your own mind? Is there evidence presented? Are they being factual about how they're presenting their arguments? And there's accuracy. Are the sources cited? Do facts appear accurate? Okay? Do they have enough citations there that you can go back and find where they got their information from? Are they using facts that seem to jive with other fact checks? Okay? Can you verify those facts? Okay? One that you don't usually think of with print sources, though, is currency. Okay? That is, when was the last site update? How recently was this posted? So when was the article uploaded? Has it been updated since then? Is the information current or relevant at the present? Or has it gone out of date since its initial arrival on the website. Another thing you can use for evaluating web sources is the domain identifiers. They can be key to determining credibility of web sources. Okay. The most common ones that you find here, .com are commercial sites. They promote business or marketing services, and they typically have no identified authors. Okay. Most .coms are like that. There's exceptions to every rule, and here's the exception to this .com rule. Okay. Most legitimate major newspapers are going to have .com addresses. Okay. So if it's coming from a newspaper website, a .com is perfectly acceptable. All right. Then you have a .org. .orgs are nonprofit organizations or advocacy groups. Some of them are neutral, but most of them have a distinct angle of vision. Okay. And again, keep in mind that there's exceptions to this rule as far as reliability goes. .org just means that they don't profit off the site. Okay. There are several rather questionable sites out there that are .orgs that you probably wouldn't want to use as web sources. Okay. We have .edus. These are college and university sites. They typically include institutional information as well as scholarly and advocacy links. And occasionally, if they're posting stuff from prominent professors and things like that, if they have a class site or a personal site on the university where they're posting academic work, okay, then it'd be useful. .edus are almost exclusively colleges, okay? And you have .gov and .mil. .gov is government agencies. .mil are going to be military units. These types of sites provide a wide range of data and support for policy. Okay, typically they are also going to be trustworthy. Okay, so make sure that you are able to understand that they're usable. Okay. Evaluate your own purpose for using the web source as well to help in the evaluation process of your sources. Okay, so think about why you would need to use them. Okay, does your purpose call for a more objective view or for an advocate? Okay, why are you looking for these sources? Okay, what kind of stuff do you need? Okay, these are all things to consider when you're looking at web sources or sources in general. Okay, what kind of use do you need out of the facts? What are you trying to support with those facts? Right. So we're going to take I'm going to give you a little intermission here, and then we're going to go ahead and go into the final exam overview. All right. So while you've got this time, I would recommend downloading and printing the final exam packet. So we'll be going through the contents of that packet. So the top and just in general the topics that are covered by this exam. All right. Let's go ahead and take 5 minutes, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So let's talk about the final exam. All right, final exam for this class is going to be a timed writing assignment. You will need to secure a proctor to administer the exam for you. What they're going to basically do is act as a timekeeper. We're going to have you guys looking for your proctors as soon as possible. Okay, and as far as who it can be, it basically can be anybody living in your household that is a responsible adult. And basically all they need to do is keep time, make sure that you don't violate the boundaries of the exam or what you are allowed to use. And then once you're done with it, they have to sign off on your response. They basically just have to put their name at the bottom of the put their name at the bottom of the essay once you're done with it. Okay. Now, an exam packet is currently available on eCampus. It's going to give you most of the necessary materials for the exam, as well as a list of 4 possible questions that may appear. Okay. It is highly suggested that you perform some further research into the materials presented, especially if some of it is unfamiliar to you. Okay. Now, this might not be a problem for some of you, because I know there's a number of you who took my 1301 last semester. Okay. You guys may have a slight materials advantage here because the topic is actually the same as last semester. However, because you're in 1302 and we have a different focus here, the questions that you deal with are going to be entirely different than the ones that you saw last semester. Okay? So just keep that in mind as you're going along here. All right. So it's also highly suggested that you print the packet, so you're allowed to use the packet in the exam along with any additional material written into it, including any notes. They're acceptable for use as long as they're written in the packet. Now let me just show you real quick what the packet entails. All right, so you'll be able to find this under the Final Exam tab currently. It is now available for you to download. Okay. As you can see here, it is 37 pages long. Okay. It contains a number of articles pertaining to the topic of the exam. The very last page has the possible questions. You are allowed to print this out. You are allowed to have this with you as you're doing the exam. You are allowed to add any notes that you deem necessary to the packet and use those on the exam. As long as it'll fit as writing in the packet, you can use it. Okay? It's especially important because there are certain elements in this packet that are links to YouTube videos. And you may want to take notes of what's in those videos in the packet so that you can use them during the exam. Okay? Alright, so again, it is highly suggested that you print out that packet and use it on the exam and put in any notes. That being said, here is your final exam topic. Topic for this final exam is children's television censorship. Always under intense scrutiny, children's television can sometimes veer into areas where general, let's say adult audiences, become more uncomfortable with subject matter. Reactions to these ventures into the wilderness can vary on a local or national scale, but many times when the ire of the adults thinking of the children is raised, it leads to the censorship or wholesale change to individual episodes or even entire series. Okay? So, what we're basically dealing with here is, to quote Chief Wiggum in the Simpsons movie, halt in the name of American squeamishness. Okay? We're basically talking about situations where subjects either cut too close to home or people felt that they were too mature or too offensive to be included in media that was intended for children. Okay? Now, there's no usual suspects when it comes to what causes controversy or what shows it appears on. The only commonality is that something angers a potentially powerful membership of the audience and leads to banning of episodes, cutting of scenes, or in some cases changing characters. Okay? Sometimes this will actually lead to characters having entire swaths of their personalities or even their entire makeup changed. Okay? The issues causing controversy change over time, ranging from issues with violent content and overtly offensive behavior to uncomfortable social movements such as civil rights, LGBTQIA+, etc., and uncomfortable societal ills such as mass incarceration, the opioid crisis, and so on. Okay? As you can see at the bottom here, we have 3 examples of this that have caused controversy over the last 30 years or so. Okay? And so starting from left to right, we're going to go with the second most recent, then the most recent, then the oldest. Okay? So from the left here, this is the characters of Ruby and Sapphire from the show Steven Universe. Normally they don't show up on screen. They're usually a permanent fusion. They usually form the character Garnet. There was a major storyline in the final episode of the season where, in fact, you were looking at part of it for the evaluation example. As a result of the events of A Single Pale Rose, Garnet split up into these 2 characters, and they lived separately for a while because they could not handle the fact that Rose Quartz had been Pink Diamond all along, and they felt that they had been lied to for centuries, basically. And that led to tension between them. Eventually, they reconciled. And what you're actually seeing here is a marriage proposal. Okay? Ruby proposed to Sapphire and decided that if this time it's going to be our choice to be Garnet, not somebody else's. Okay? All well and good. The only thing that's causing controversy about this, every gem character in that show identifies as female. Okay? Even though there's technically not binary sexes in that species, everybody is considered to be female in the gem, among gems. Okay? So this is basically 2 women marrying each other. It's the character as being the first lesbian wedding depicted in children's television in America. Okay? And led to a little bit of controversy. First off, it's actually believed that this particular storyline is what led to Cartoon Network telling Rebecca Sugar, yeah, you can do this, but we're going to end the show. Okay? Second, Steven Universe has had some LGBTQ content that has been censored overseas because it was felt it was too offensive, especially in Russia, where, as you may recall, if you know enough about Russia, you know that they have some highly homophobic laws on the books, which this would count as homosexual propaganda, I think it is, under those statutes. So for years, they've gotten around this with local translations by having Ruby's voice being done by a man. Okay? So that it would still be a straight couple. Okay? Pretty sure Rebecca Sugar got wind of this and decided, you know what? Screw Russia. When they got to the actual episode with the wedding, guess who's wearing the dress? It's Ruby. Ruby's wearing the dress and Sapphire's wearing the tux. Alright? So, that's one example. Second one that we have here might be surprising. Sesame Street has had a lot of these controversies arise, and it's primarily out of, typically it's political in nature. Okay? The scene that we have here, this green character, this green monster character, Carly. Carly is one of the more recent characters introduced to the show that deals with large issues. In this case, Carly is a foster child. This is her foster home that we're looking at. Elmo's just there as a guest. But Carly is in a foster home because her parents are opioid addicts. Okay? So she's there while they're in rehab. Okay? That would cause a little bit of controversy because that's a really heavy topic there. Okay? Third one. This is the oldest example. This is from 1994. This is from actually from a Disney show. Disney had a show ran 2 seasons called Gargoyles. Okay, it ran as part of the Disney Afternoon in syndication. The 6th episode of the show was an episode titled Deadly Force. Okay. No, excuse me, 8th episode. 8th episode. Eighth episode was titled Deadly Force. The episode involved this character, Lisa Mazza, accidentally getting shot in her apartment by one of the gargoyles who was playing with her gun. Okay, it was about gun safety. We're going to talk a little bit more about this episode later on, but it's basically one of our case examples. Okay? Reasoning for controversy. Let's talk about this briefly. One of the things that's in your packet is a list from website Looper. There's also an accompanying video that goes along with it. It has a general listing of censored episodes of children's media, but you can kind of divide it into certain categories. Okay. If you look at this list here, this is the reasonings that usually show up on that list. So first off, violence, obviously, because one of the episodes on that list is Deadly Force. Okay. Second, we have offensive content and language. So the two episodes that I put under this category, one of them is called Rude Removal from the show Dexter's Laboratory, which involved the characters of Dexter and his sister Dee Dee accidentally going through a machine that was supposed to remove their rude tendencies, but instead it split them up into two separate Dexters and Dee Dees. The good ones were very polite, very generous, very British for some reason. The others were constantly being bleeped for their language and were basically generally obnoxious. Okay? So that was what got them in trouble. The other one is a banned episode of Cow and Chicken called Buffalo Gals, which involved a biker gang called the Buffalo Gals. And pretty much the best description of this episode is 7 straight minutes of lesbian jokes. Buffalo Gals were butch bikers, and one of the gags about them is that they invade people's houses and start munching on their carpets. You can figure it out from there. Third category, physical harm to viewers. Okay. The episode included in this is Electric Soldier Porygon from the original Pokemon TV series. It's an episode that has never aired in the US and has been banned from Japanese TV. It only aired once, but that airing was enough to send 300 kids to the hospital having seizures because of one sequence where you suddenly had blue and red flashing in sequence quick enough to trigger epilepsy. Okay? So that episode has been banned from broadcast. Okay? Excessive death portrayals. Okay? One of them is Tiny Toon Adventures episode called One Beer, which was supposed to be a PSA episode talking about the dangers of drinking. And it ends with those three characters you see in the corner there. That would be Buster Bunny, Plucky Duck, and Hampton J. Pig. Stealing a police car and driving off a cliff. And basically dying. And people thought that was a little excessive. So in subsequent broadcasts of the episode that included that cartoon, it's been removed. Okay? The other one is from Sailor Moon Day of Destiny. This was, as portrayed in Japan, every single Sailor Scout died. Okay? When it was localized for the US, it basically was changed to they're not dead, they're just incapacitated. Okay? We're going to shuffle around the writing a little bit, so we're not going to say that they're dead. They're just going to look really dead. Okay? Alright, so the next one is offensive religious content. Under this category, you had an entire series that got banned, and that was the Garbage Pail Kids in the late 80s. Was banned from the US because of uproar from religious groups that found it to be too sacrilegious. Okay. The other one is Powerpuff Girls See Me, Feel Me, Know Me, which had a weird plot line to begin with, but it was banned because people thought that depictions of wreckage in the background of certain scenes looked too much like crucifixes. So it was banned. Okay? Next one is overt sexual content. There's 2 episodes involved here. One is Batman the Brave and the Bold. Had an episode titled The Mask of Matches Malone. At one point you have a cabaret act from 3 of the female heroes of Birds of Prey. That would be Huntress, Black Canary, and in this version, Catwoman. Singing a song about the sexual prowess of the Justice League. And so much double entendre you have to cut it with a chainsaw. Okay? So, the offending thing that got them in trouble is a scene that's actually depicted here. Huntress is waggling her finger as she's making a double entendre statement about Aquaman's penis. Okay? So, you can imagine that's in a kid's show. I mean, come on, guys. All right. Second one is one that kind of goes without saying. It's from Outlaw Star, Hot Springs Planet Tenrei. It's an anime with a Hot Springs episode. I don't think I need to say any more. All right. The last one here is promoting antisocial behavior. In that category, we have an episode of Dudley Do-Right called Stokey the Bear. Stokey the Bear was kind of like Smokey the Bear. He was basically a parody of him. But in the episode, he's hypnotized by the villain to be a pyromaniac and basically burns down a forest so that the villain can have enough fire to roast his weenies. Okay? The Park Service didn't take too kindly to having a parody of Smokey the Bear lighting forests on fire. So that particular episode did get banned. So let's look at the 2 case studies that we have in here. So the first one, case study is Deadly Force from the first season of Disney's Gargoyles, the 8th of the season. Okay. So, briefly, plotline centers on guilt felt by the Gargoyle Broadway after he accidentally shoots the Gargoyle's human ally, police detective Lisa Mazza, with her own gun in her apartment when he was playing cowboy with it. Okay. The episode basically involves the Gargoyle has gotten obsessed with a Western called Showdown. And the highlight of this Western is a gunfight, basically a gun duel, in the typical Western tradition. So when he flies over to Elisa's apartment, she's hung up her shoulder holster on a coat rack. The gun's still there. While she's in the kitchen, distracted in the kitchen, he finds the gun and he starts playing with it. He starts doing like the typical cowboys and Indians things with it, and it goes off. What you're seeing here is the result of that shot. Okay, she's bleeding out on the floor of her kitchen. So, episode originally aired in syndication. Disney Afternoon was a syndicated block that ran from the late 80s to the late 90s. Okay, a lot of the shows that people have a lot of nostalgia for Disney Afternoon would be things like DuckTales, Goof Troop, Chippendales Rescue Rangers. These are all part of Disney Afternoon. Gargoyles was one of the entries to Disney Afternoon. It was a bit more mature one. It dealt with an older audience. Okay. It aired unaltered in syndication. However, the episode was removed from rotation when it appeared on Disney-owned cable networks, particularly Toon Disney and Disney XD. Now, other networks did also show the series. For instance, USA Network for a while had a kids block, and they aired Gargoyles. Okay. Other networks that showed the series digitally removed blood from the scene when Elisa was shot. As you can see there, she is actually in a puddle of blood. They do have the dialogue that says that she's having trouble. She's still, later on in the episode, she flatlines. Okay? They still have her flatlining. But they decided the blood was one step too far. Okay? Now, the episode was restored to the series in 2013 for its DVD collection release. Okay? Once again, the unaltered version. Now, 2019, though, series was made available for streaming on Disney Plus. It was actually one of the more popular entries on Disney Plus at launch. Okay? The episode is in its proper place in the season 1 rotation. However, when you get to the shooting scene, The shooting scene is recut to avoid showing Elisa's bleeding. It focuses on her upper body and basically cuts off around her midsection. Okay, just above where the blood's coming out. Okay, so people are still squeamish about this episode, even though it has a good message. And it's basically, don't play with guns, and if you are a gun owner, put that gun away for God's sake. Okay, but people are still squeamish about how they portrayed it in such a realistic manner, and this was Disney that did this. This wasn't like some off-brand or some foreign animation house that did this. No, this was Disney. This was Disney that was showing this. Okay? So obviously that kind of added to the controversy here. All right. The second case study in the packet is Sesame Street. All right? Might seem weird. Again, Sesame Street for years has been the gold standard of American children's television. It is currently in its 50th season. It is currently airing on 2 networks. It still airs on PBS. However, first-run episodes now air on HBO before going to PBS 2 weeks later. Okay? That's the current broadcast deal right now for the show. Now, over the years, Sesame Street has earned no shortage of criticism over how issues have been portrayed on the show. Now, typically, the loudest and most harsh criticism for the show has involved portrayals of social issues such as multiculturalism and societal ills. Okay? So, show has, over the years, has introduced characters who introduce children to these societal concepts, usually in response to criticisms, and have integrated them into the show's overall storyline. So, it's a big push for diversity and inclusion and integration. Okay? Literally, integration was actually one of the things that got complained about. In fact, at one point, I believe it was in 1969 or 1970, some point, the show was actually, the governor of Mississippi tried to ban the PBS affiliates in Mississippi from showing it because he felt they contributed to a racially motivated school shooting on a college campus. Okay, and in general, you had a lot of old school people in segregated areas, or traditionally segregated areas, that felt, you know what, we don't want our kids seeing this integration stuff. We want to keep the status quo. We don't like this. Oh my God! Somebody think of the children. Okay, so there's some examples to this. Okay, a few examples I wanted to present for you. One of them is Roosevelt Franklin, which is depicted here. Roosevelt Franklin is coded as an African American. He's basically how they're trying to integrate the show above and beyond the human characters. They wanted to have African American Muppets. Thing is, with Roosevelt Franklin, they're trying to avoid him being a stereotype. Okay, stereotype African American characters at this time period were basically like sidekicks for the white characters. Okay, Roosevelt Franklin was intended to be non-stereotypical, so he had agency, he had independence. He was also a genius, so much so that he ran his own elementary school. Okay, in the show. Moving on from there, you might be surprised. Abby Kadabby, if you're familiar with the show, if you've watched it over the last 20 years of the show, you know Abby Kadabby. She is one of these diverse characters because she's a child of divorce. Okay, there's actually an episode where she gets picked up by her mom and talks over the fact that her dad doesn't live with Elmos because they're divorced. Okay. Recent years we had Julia, who is autistic. She's also had been controversial because the creator of Julia, the autistic creator of Julia, broke away from Sesame Street because Sesame Street was working with Autism Speaks, which is a group that most people in the autism community dislike for various reasons, not the least of which is they tend to be a little bit more on the eugenics side of the debate over autism. Okay, basically saying that autism is something that needs to be eradicated as opposed to a condition that people can live with. We have Alex, who is got an incarcerated father. Okay, so he's dealing primarily with families of inmates. Okay, we have Lily, who is an impoverished child. She's initially brought in to talk about child hunger and food insecurity, and later her family loses their home, so then she becomes about homelessness. Okay. South African Sesame Street had a character named Cammy. Cammy was a Muppet who had HIV, and she was intended to try to drop the stigma of HIV among children, so that if they have HIV positive classmates, they're not going to be going into wild accusations or any kind of discriminatory mode with them. Okay, Cammy was very controversial because there were a lot of people who were saying, okay, now you're just basically advocating for sex and stuff like that, and it's like, it's a Muppet. Okay. And then we mentioned Carly earlier. Okay, she's in foster care because her parents are in rehab for opioid use. Okay. The third study is actually a controversial topic, and that is LGBTQIA plus representation. Okay? Now, in recent years, the issue that has led to more children's TV being altered than any other has tended to be issues around LGBTQIA plus issues, specifically portrayals of relationships and characters in media. There's a tendency to want to have gay and lesbian and bisexual, any kind of anyone within this spectrum, to have them kind of shuffled off, made into an ancillary character, or to have that part of their identity subsumed a little bit. Okay? Now, it's not so much a problem, although it still is in the United States. Okay? But much of the censorship surrounding this issue gets enacted in foreign countries when the shows are localized. Okay? There's been a lot of examples of this. There's another Steven Universe example from Great Britain where they recut a scene showing Pearl and Rose Quartz dancing that they felt was a little too romanticized. Okay? And they thought it was too on the nose about the fact that this is a same-sex relationship. Same-sex romantic relationship. Okay? However, it has been done in the U.S. before. Okay? The U.S. did it when Sailor Moon first came over in the 90s, okay? However, this was actually pretty hilarious, okay? Because they actually, in localizing it and trying to eliminate the lesbianism, they actually made it worse, okay? So here's the story. Two of the Sailor Scouts, Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, canonically are lesbians, and they are canonically in a relationship together, okay? That's not in doubt. Okay, there's no speculation about this. This is not a fan headcanon. This is actually the way the creator intended it. Okay, when they brought it over to the U.S., they said, no, we can't do this lesbianism thing. Yeah, we're a bit more open in the 90s, but we're not that open yet. Okay, so we're going to try to change this. So we'll make it into a more. Why are they so affectionate with each other? They're cousins. Okay. Great. You wanted to avoid them being lesbians. Oh, great. Now, when they're being that affectionate and you're saying that they're cousins, congratulations, you've just generated incest. Okay? So, sometimes people aren't exactly thinking clearly when they're doing these things. Okay? So, keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that these sort of topics are actually starting to come more to the forefront. Again, previously they had been subsumed. They've been left to last episodes. A famous example of this is Adventure Time. They had all sorts of little hints about Marceline and Princess Bubblegum, that they had a relationship at one point. They didn't really give them any meat to this relationship until the very last episode. Okay, so it's been something that's kind of been swept under the rug. Now, the thing is that shows have been developed in recent years that have had this representation built into them, sometime as the framework the entire show is built around. Okay? One of these, for sure, Steven Universe, one of the major characters is basically the living embodiment of a lesbian relationship. There's implications of a lot of other same-sex relationships. There's actually, you get to Steven Universe Future, one of the human characters winds up with a non-binary partner. Okay? And there's a lot of exploration of these sorts of issues. Okay? One thing to keep in mind about this is that the creator of this show, Rebecca Sugar, does identify as non-binary. Okay? Non-binary bisexual. And although she will occasionally use she, her pronouns, she also uses they, them pronouns. And she's also married to a man. Okay, she married one of the guys who worked on the show, Ian Jones Quartey. Okay, so it's part of her. The other example here, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. This is the reboot of She-Ra that aired on Netflix. Okay, in this case, again, we have Noel Stevenson is the showrunner of this show, another non-binary creator. Okay, the entire framework of this show is centered on the two characters you're seeing on your screen right now. That would be Princess Adora and Catra. In fact, the culmination of their relationship from being best friends as children to enemies to eventually lovers is actually what resolves the entire plot line of the show in the final season. Okay? It was basically hardwired in. While many shows can only get away with it in closing seasons or episodes, more shows recently are being overt about their representation with the support of their broadcast platforms. That's the important part here. They wouldn't be able to do this unless the networks are allowing it. Okay? Sometimes they might be, earlier years they might be able to get away with a little bit, but there might be overarching problems from their broadcast platforms or their production companies or anything like that. They may not want to support that sort of thing. Okay? But you're seeing it more commonly nowadays. So let's talk about some extra resources that we have for this topic. Okay? The exam packet includes a number of links to additional resources. Okay? One of these things is a series of 5 articles about LGBTQIA plus representation covering one platform per article. Okay? So that's actually a good source on that particular aspect of this topic. Okay? There's also 12 video clips which give samples from the following shows that are affected by these issues. Many of these are what caused the censorship issues in the first place. Okay? And you can see there are a lot of shows here. Okay? So take your pick. And it's also ranging from a long period of time. Okay? I will say the first 10 that are on this list are the ones from the Looper episode. Or they're the ones from the Looper article. Okay, so Gargoyles, Dexter's Lab, Tiny Toon Adventures, Cow and Chicken, Dudley Do-Right, Batman the Brave and the Bold, Garbage Pail Kids, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, Powerpuff Girls, Outlaw Star. Those are all covered by Looper. Okay, we also have some clips from Sesame Street. Basically, I tried to find the introductions of all of the characters dealing with heavy issues. Okay, then we have some other shows. Some of these are newer. Okay, so. First off, Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. This was a DreamWorks series that aired on Netflix. We have a character who is openly gay in this show. All right, Steven Universe, obviously. Not only do you have the issues you have Garnet, you have a lot of the lesbian representation. You also have in the lower, you might see in the lower right-hand corner here, that character's name is Stevani. They are a fusion of Steven and his girlfriend Connie. She's got multiple things going. They've got multiple things going because Stevani is non-binary. They've got one male and one female fused into one character. Okay. Stevani also technically is a person of color because Connie is East Indian by ethnicity. Her full name is Connie Maheshwaran. All right, so we have a lot of representation there, just in one character. Okay, there's some clips from She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Okay, then we have Gravity Falls. There was 2 police officer characters that were confirmed in the final episode to be a gay couple. Okay, then we have The Legend of Korra. Final episode, the Avatar Korra goes into the spirit world to start a relationship with her friend Asami. Okay. Then we have Adventure Time, which we talked about that with Princess Bubblegum and Marceline. Then we have the Owl House. Okay. The most recent show on this list is the Owl House. Okay. Characters of Luce and Amity. They've confirmed that the creator has since confirmed that Luce is bisexual. So that is canonically bisexual. Okay? And she seems to be trying to start a relationship with Amity, this other girl here. It came to a head in a episode that basically involved a prom. When it turned out that Amity had tried to ask Luce to go to this dance with her as her date. Okay, so we have a lot of resources on this. So this is just to give you a brief overview of what's in that packet. Now, I do want you guys to look through the packet, read those articles, do a little bit of in-depth reading on them. I also eventually want you guys to look at the questions and maybe try to practice writing responses to those 4 questions. Okay? So, thanks for sticking around for this marathon. Here's what we got on the agenda for right now. I need you guys to be continuing to work in your teams on the annotated bibliography. We've got that due date coming up. We also have the Mind Tab and the discussion boards to work with. I'm going to need you also to post your responses to the Spot the Troll quiz on the discussion board. Now, one thing I want to make clear here, do not cheat on this. If you picked one that was legit and found out it was a troll, don't change your answer. Just stick with the original answer you had and make note that you were right or wrong. Okay? And then finally, download this exam packet and start looking through the materials. Get yourself ready for the end of the semester. That being said, thanks for sticking around. Get yourself a drink, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you. Thanks for watching.